everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Kingdom Deluxe class Warpath. In this review we are throwing it back to the traditional G1 style of characters with this particular release, and in my opinion once again this is another smash hit for the Kingdom toy line. Warpath here has never looked better. This figure is truly remarkable. Bringing him in here for a closer look, you can see that I believe they've captured all of the details from the original G1 cartoon series here exceptionally well, even down to the actual colour scheme of the white treads, as well as this almost maroon type brown that they have used for the majority of the figure. Quite surprisingly, this figure is actually painted really nicely. All of this here is paint, and the only areas of plastic are these sections here and this back section. For the most part, all of this figure has been completely painted, which I think looks tremendous. If we just take a look here at a bird's eye perspective, you can see all of the fantastic sculpting and detailing that we do have with these figures. I really do love how they are updating some of our traditional G1 characters in this particular War for Cybertron line, and I'm really happy that they're actually introducing some of these traditional characters into the Beast Wars line. It's not just solely Beast Wars characters, there is a mix for everyone. So if you're not much of a fan of Beast Wars, you can definitely still pick up some of the figures in this line. I think that the detailing here for the treads has come out really nicely, especially with all of the mechanical components that we have here at the top. I love how they've actually sculpted in all of these different wheels here. Very, very accurate to the show, and you can also see the detailing for the actual treads themselves, and surprisingly there are no paint bleeds on this particular release whatsoever. As we turn him to the underside, once again I do think that he cleans up really nicely. Quite honestly, you probably wouldn't even tell that this figure can transform. This tank mode looks that well done. We have an awesome Autobot insignia there, and just taking a look at the details there for the actual turret, I think that this all looks amazing. We've got the canopy of where the pilot would actually sit in this particular vehicle, which once again is a really nice attention to detail. And you can see there all of the fantastic mechanical detailing there. And even as we take a look here at the back, we also have this gap filler, which doesn't play any role in robot mode whatsoever. It is just solely here in order to block out this region here so that we don't have any hollow gaps, which in my opinion just shows how much care and attention Hasbro are indeed putting into this final chapter of War for Cybertron figures. In terms of articulation, the turret here can rotate the full 360 degrees, and the actual main barrel itself can also hinge up and down, which is fantastic. Usually with figures like this, like we've seen on Impactor and some of the Studio Series tanks, the turret is always fixed. However, with this release it does have a hinge joint, which I think is super cool. He does roll on 4 caster wheels, and he does roll really well as well. You can see that he is easily able to glide along the ground with ease, so that's super awesome. And in all, I just think that he's a fantastic figure. So without further ado, let's bring in some comparisons, and then we'll go through the transformation. And here for a very quick War for Cybertron size comparison, I really do believe that Warpath here scales fantastically with some of our other figures, especially the scale between both Hoist and Warpath. This is definitely the scale that we saw in the original G1 cartoon series, and I think that putting Warpath in the Deluxe class line was definitely the right decision. You can see that he literally looks as if though he's just jumped straight out of the screen. He looks that awesome and really does scale really nicely here with Hoist. Comparing him next to the Voyager class Optimus Prime, you can see that I think the scale there also works quite nicely. I do believe that Warpath was indeed a mini-bot, so it definitely makes sense to put him in the Deluxe line. And then just for one final comparison in terms of the Autobots, here we have him compared next to Sunstreaker, and once again I think that they scale really, really nicely with one another. And here for one final comparison, we have Warpath compared next to his Wavemate Deluxe Cheetor, as well as the tank mode for Skytread. And just giving you a very quick comparison between these two, there is no denying that Warpath absolutely obliterates the lower half of Skytread in terms of a tank. I think that this figure here looks absolutely fantastic. And then just bringing in Cheetor, you can see that of course whilst Cheetor is slightly taller, I think that in terms of their overall length, they're pretty much spot on. And in terms of plastic distribution, they do also feel exactly the same. So definitely a really awesome Warpath figure. And wham bam zam, let's transform Warpath from his awesome looking tank mode into the robot mode, which is for sure the star out of the two modes. So to begin with, what I like to do is come to this section and just pop up his head just so that you can see how the head looks there whilst he is fully transformed into tank mode. I think this looks super awesome. You're then going to want to lower the turret down and just compress this into the torso for a cleaner and coherent look. You're then going to want to turn your attention here to the back and just collapse this section in and fold this panel down. And really and truly it's just a matter of turning your attention here to the bottom, completely removing this piece which does act as a shield for robot mode, and then we can begin to loosen up this entire torso. So here for the transformation, I do like to slightly angle these lower sections out just so that we can begin to detach the tabs here on the arms and then just pull the arms out here to the sides. The transformation is incredibly sophisticated on this particular release. securely. So you're then going to want to take the treads here and just collapse those into the arms, and of course repeat the same process here for the opposite side. With that now done, we can take this entire section and shift this all the way up, and it will indeed tab nice and securely into place. We can then turn our attention to perhaps the more complex part of the transformation, that being the legs. So for this particular area, you're going to want to take this panel and just collapse that down. That will then allow you to come to this area, and you can see that for tank mode, this is actually tabbed in there. You're going to want to remove that, which will then allow you to lift this entire piece up, and then you're going to want to fold this all the way in, and then take this section here and also fold this all the way in as well, and that will clip nice and securely into place. You can see that we do have a tab there that this slot is going to go into, so just rotate this around, snap that into place, and rotate the leg around, and of course repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just attach that, come here to the lower section, lift this all the way up, and of course rotate all of this in accordingly, snap that into place, and then just flip out the heel spur. And that is the transformation for our Deluxe Class Kingdom Warpath, fully completed, and doesn't he look fantastic? And so now, taking a look here at Warpath in his robot mode, wowza! I definitely believe this to be one of the best generation versions of Warpath that we have ever gotten, at least in terms of G1 accuracy. Just giving you a very quick 360-degree spin, you can see that this figure is just so accurate to the show, from the sculpting to, of course, the paint applications. I absolutely love how they've managed to get the treads here on the arms as well as on the feet, and they are very accurate in terms of their colour to what we saw on screen. As we take a look here at the back, there is literally no back kibble whatsoever, and you saw in what I was stating earlier on in regards to this piece, it really doesn't serve much of a purpose here in robot mode other than the fact to actually fill out the rear area of the tank mode. So once again, it really does show to me how much care and attention Hasbro are indeed putting into their figures. In terms of an additional component, you saw for tank mode that this shield piece does act as the front section of the tank in order to allow it to securely clip together, and of course to fill out that entire front section. For sure, if you're not a huge fan of this piece, you can just detach it and leave it off to the side for a more accurate look, but bringing Warpath in here for a closer look, I think that the head sculpt there looks absolutely fantastic. We can truly appreciate all of the sculpting and detailing that has gone into this head, as well as the impeccable paint applications. You can see that around the eyes, we do have the white applied incredibly crisp and precisely. The eyes also do have a slightly green tint. It's rather difficult to actually convey on camera, but they are for sure painted. And then as we just take a look here at the back, once again the detail does continue, as well as here for the entire back region of the figure. You can see that we've got some fantastic sculpting and detailing, and this was something that 3 or 4 years ago would have gone completely unheard of, as Hasbro never really used to care about the backs of their figures. However, you can see that with our new War for Cybertron, they for sure are improving in terms of their skills, and I think that this here looks really, really awesome. As we take a look here at a side perspective, you can see that we've got some really nice detailing where the treads are concerned, as well as on the arms. I love all of the surface detailing as well, with the nuts and bolts and the various different ridges to the overall sculpt. As we take a look here at the top, I just think this looks so awesome. Really crisp and clean white paint apps there for the torso, and you saw in what I was stating earlier on in regards to the paint applications, the entire arms here are indeed painted, which is fantastic. It really does give him a very metallic feel, which I think is super cool. And then finally, as we take a look here down to the lower region, once again the sculpt work does continue, and in my opinion he's just so proportionally accurate to what we saw in the show. Of course, you can take the main barrel here and extend it if this is your preferred look for Warpath, and if we do have a blast effect, you can just peg that on there in order to give you the illusion that he is indeed firing at the enemy Decepticon. In terms of articulation, for such a bulky deluxe class, he is actually rather articulated. So to begin with, we do have a ball joint here at the head, which can look up to a fair degree, as well as down, as well as tilt side to side. Full 360 rotation at the head, full 360 at the arms, as well as hinge out to the sides. Full 360 there at the bicep, as well as a 90-degree bend there for the elbow, and then of course 360 here at the wrists. We do also get a waist joint, which could potentially go the full 360. However, due to this entire back region, I definitely don't want to force it in case I accidentally do scrape the paint apps. And then in terms for the legs, they can kick forwards that far, as well as back to about that far, hinge out to the sides, full 360 there at the thigh, as well as a 90-degree bend there for the knee. And then finally, we do actually get ankle rocker joints. However, the way that they are indeed stationed, it makes this entire region here stay static, which in my opinion doesn't look all that good. And you can see here that half of the foot does stay in its neutral position, whereas the rest of it does indeed move, which in terms of stability can create for some problems. However, it's nothing that some patience and care can't remedy. So in all, a really, really awesome looking figure with this particular Warpath. And here, once again, for some Autobot size comparisons, here we have Warpath compared next to both the Earthrise Hoist as well as Sunstreaker. And once again, I really do think that the scale here works really nicely. In particular, the scale between both Warpath and Hoist. These two characters we see a lot of together, and this is definitely the scale that we do see on screen. Perhaps Warpath is ever so slightly shorter than what we do actually see in the actual G1 series. However, nonetheless, it's very, very minute and is only a minor nitpick. So in all, definitely, I think that it was a great choice to put him in the Deluxe class assortment, and I think that he really does scale rather nicely with some of our other War for Cybertron Autobots. And so now, turning to reverse transformation for Warpath, it is once again incredibly enjoyable to go through. So to begin with, you're going to want to take this section, and you can see here that in terms of the actual tabs, there is a direct slot for you to actually place this in. So you're going to want to align this up and just clip it in between this tab as well as this back one. Of course, repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just bring this around and snap that nice and securely there into place. We can then take this section and pull this entire region here back. So just take the head, launch this entire piece here to the back, and then with this piece, you're going to want to push this all the way through until it does pop out there on the opposite side. Untab this piece, and then just push this down so that it does snap into place and once again fills out the entire rear area of the tank mode. With that now complete, we can turn our attention here to the legs. You're going to want to take this, disengage that, and hinge this backwards. Of course, repeat the same process there for the opposite side. And in terms of the legs, you're going to want to bring this entire section around and at the same time rotate there at the fire, hinge this section here out, snap that into place, lower this down, and then take this piece here and once again clip that in and rotate. So definitely a fair amount of rotation for where the legs are concerned. However, you can see that everything does align up nice and appropriately. Of course, repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So rotate this around and then hinge this section up, hinge this piece all the way up as well. We can then proceed to collapse this down, take this area, snap that into place, and then bring this over. You're then going to want to lift these up, hinge those out to the side so that we can actually peg this slot into this tab first so that we can conceal the hands within this hollow space. So once that's done, then we can proceed to clip the tank treads into place. So just snap those in there. It does require a fair amount of force. Just clip that in there, ensure that everything there is nice and aligned, and of course repeat the exact same process here on the opposite side. So just bring the treads in and snap those in there. We can then connect this half together, pull this piece down, rotate the head backwards, snap that into place, extend the tank turret, bring in the shield piece that we saw earlier on, and you can see that we do have two slots here and here as well as here and here that various tabs on the underside of this piece will actually snap into. And I really do like how this completely conceals this entire hollow gap there at the front, as well as helps to keep the two halves of the tank mode completely connected together. It can once again be rather finicky to actually align everything up, so just snap that in there. And with all that being done, here we have the Kingdom Warpath fully transformed up into his rather awesome looking tank mode. And so, some final thoughts. Once again, I love this figure. Truly one of the best representations that we have ever gotten for Warpath in the main Generations toy line. I think that this figure here looks absolutely fantastic in both robot mode and tank mode. I really don't have any flaws with either of the modes in terms of the accuracy to his on-screen appearance. I really do believe that they have nailed the overall look of him, and I love all of the surface detailing as well as the really nice paint applications. I was incredibly surprised to see paint apps on this entire region here as well as on the arms and of course the legs and these entire lower sections. This is probably one of the best painted deluxes that we have gotten out of the War for Cybertron trilogy so far, and quite honestly they could have just cast most of this in this almost maroon brown that they have used for certain aspects of the figure, such as the hinge joints here as well as some hinge joints for the actual arms. But honestly, I think that the paint applications look really nice. I love how they've actually managed to almost colour match the actual paint to the plastic, unlike what they did with the Sunstreaker mold, so that's super cool. Transformation is for sure incredibly unique to this character, and in my opinion is unlike any other transformation that we have seen so far. I really do like converting this figure from robot to tank mode, and of course vice versa, and I think for a very bulky looking character, the articulation too is flawless. I think that in terms of scale, he works perfectly with some of our other Deluxe Voyagers and Leaders, and in all is just a flawless figure, so definitely a smash hit for the Deluxe Wave 1 Kingdom figures, and in my opinion is one of the highlights. This entire wave is incredibly strong for Kingdom, and Warpath here is no exception to that. He truly is a fantastic figure. So in all, if you do get the opportunity to pick him up, I highly recommend to do so. I'm also a huge fan that they are once again incorporating some of our more traditional G1 characters into this Kingdom line, so that there is something in this line for everyone, especially if you are not a fan of the actual Beast Wars characters themselves. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also, be sure to let me know whether or not you will be adding this figure to your collection, and if you agree with me on my incredibly high appreciation for this figure as well. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.